UCF Live.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Strelko. Welcome into the Sons of UCF Live. Welcome in on this Wednesday edition. Hello, Adam and Mike.
Greetings, Trace. I figured a UCF legend like Kevin Reese should kick off the show. So thanks for tuning in to everybody. Trace, Mike, good to be back another week with you guys.
Yeah, man. I like your background. Yeah, I see some additions over there. I see some shelves going on. Pretty sweet.
Studio A has undergone some renovations, so we're slowly going to add to the background at some point there.
Studio A. I like that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk football in just a moment, but women's basketball just completed a 61-28 demolishing of SMU to advance to the championship game. We'll hear from Coach Abe in a little bit. 28 points they gave up, 3 quarters with single digits. Pretty impressive defense for women's basketball this season.
Yeah, I mean, they just absolutely get after it on the defensive end of the floor, and it's inspiring to see. You kind of wish that other teams would take that defensive mentality. I know the quote you have coming up, Coach Abe talks about how you have to be balanced on both sides of the floor, but you can tell the team takes pride in locking down the other team. And I think that's, while some people may argue that's not the fun style of basketball, right? They want to see you load up a bunch of points. You got to love a team that's willing to roll up their sleeves and lock in defensively. And night in, night out, Coach Abe and the women's team do that consistently, and that's awesome to see.
You say it in a lot of sports, defense wins championships, and that's what's about to happen here tomorrow. And, you know, defense doesn't go in slumps. When these guys, it's all about heart, determination, hustle, and that's what these girls have shown all year.
We're going to hear from Coach Abe in a little bit. BJ Taylor will be joining us. We're going to preview the men's run in the AAC tournament, perhaps run. Maybe they'll get more than one game in this tournament. They open tomorrow. That's why we're live Wednesday. But just around the corner, starting next week, spring practice. We've been talking about it since the season ended with the Gasparola Bowl victory. When would we have football again? Monday, March 14th, Coach Malzahn will talk to the media. And then first practice, Tuesday, March 15th. And, of course, all leading up to the spring game, Saturday, April 16th. We get our football fix for about 5-6 weeks.
Listen, it's not perfect. We get it, right? This isn't exactly what we want, right? It's glorified guys and, you know, shorts and pads running around. It's 5-second video clips of a quarterback throwing the ball from the 1 to the 2. It's not perfect. We get it, but it's the only thing we got right now. And there are some storylines that we need to monitor from a football standpoint. So it's not perfect, but accept that we can get at this point. And hopefully it's a fun spring. The spring game can be a good time too. So we're going to embrace it. Although I can't wait to see Trace's 5-second video clips of long snappers getting the ball back to the punter. That's going to be riveting material for us here.
Trace's videos are going to be key for all of us. But Trace, please have the video facing the right way. We don't need to see a bunch of
here we go again with this.
We're going to see a bunch of lefties out there when they're actually righties. He's going to throw us all off. We're not going to know what.
John Rice Plumlee, now left-handed.
Perhaps when I shoot the video, John Rice Plumlee completes the passes, and they look better. I know, Mike, you said on the podcast this week that that's one of the things we'll be looking for, and I think, Adam, you said it right. I don't think Gus Malzahn's going to let us see much of anyone throwing.
If I see John Rice Plumlee throwing a football, something terrible has gone on. Either you have trespassed again, somebody chloroformed Dan Forcella. I don't know what it's going to be, but if I see someone throwing a football, especially John Rice Plumlee, something really bad went down.
You need to hide your phone somewhere inside the indoor practice facility. Just happen to have it running. I don't know. And then maybe we get some breaking coverage that nobody else will have.
You want to get me banned, I see, from UCF Athletics. The question I asked on Twitter this week, going into camp, what do you have the most questions about? About a third of the folks that responded said defense. 2/3 said offense. Mary Ashbaugh 6 said both. The quarterback battle on offense, some of the positions that are thin on defense. At Ryan Patton 82, I have questions about the O-line, wide receiver, quarterback, and depth at running back behind Bowser. Wade at 911_black_gold. For me, it's pretty much even on both sides, linebacker and DL on defense, quarterback and O-line on offense. And UCF_blue 626, he voted offense, but the single position group with the biggest question mark for that respondent is linebacker. Which way would you have voted on this? More questions about offense or more questions about defense?
Yeah, I think it's got to be offense, Trace. Until we know who is going to be QB1, the most important position on the field, until you know that, it's got to be the offense. Until we have that solidified, we know if it's Plumlee and what his offensive game plan will look like. Obviously not a thrower, maybe more of a runner. Did Mikey Keene make any jumps in his game? Is Castellanos going to surprise everybody from out of nowhere? I think until you have QB1 settled, it's got to be the offense. No disrespect to the other positions. I think everybody else who responded is correct. But without QB1, I think it's got to be offense.
I think the quarterback position is the biggest question, but I think I have more questions about the defense and how we're going to restock that defensive line. Big Cat gone, Kalia Davis gone, the linebackers we already know, and the secondary. I mean, we're still waiting on guys that we haven't seen before that were injured last year, guys coming up, the new freshmen coming in. Can they make an impact? So I think defense has more questions. Offense, obviously, with the quarterback situation is the biggest question going in.
Thought you guys did a good deep dive, a bit of a primer during the podcast this week, talking about players that you're looking for. Let's start about that quarterback battle. I still find it hard to believe that Thomas Castellanos is going to come in and start game one, that they're going to turn to a true freshman when they have Mikey Keene and John Rice Plumlee.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Trace. I'm just laying the foundation, right? If you take Plumlee out, and I know that's a big take out right there, right? Castellanos is the only quarterback on the roster recruited by Gus. So clearly Gus sees something in his game that says this translates to what I want to do. We've seen this scenario play out before. It's actually very eerily similar to the Dylan Gabriel freshman year. A transfer quarterback who may or may not be able to throw the football, a quarterback who stepped in and took the helm after the other quarterback got injured, and then you have a freshman kind of coming out of nowhere with a lot of hype. I'm not saying it's going to happen again. These things are sometimes lightning in a bottle, but I do think that one's interesting to monitor. For me, Trace, the biggest position battle, and it's probably not as important, but maybe it is the backup running back spot. You know, we saw Isaiah Bowser go down a bunch, and we had some continuity on the running back side for Johnny Richardson and Mark Anthony Richards. But now we have RJ Harvey coming in. We have Jordan McDonald coming in. So who's going to be running back two? I want Bowser to stay healthy all year long. Don't get me wrong. But if he can't go, who's that second guy in? And I think we had some inconsistency at time last year. I felt like Gus tried to play the hot hand and sometimes took too long to figure out who that was. So who's going to establish themselves as that second running back? I think that's going to be interesting to watch as camp goes on.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out Castellanos getting some playing time this year. I mean, we've seen it before, and we've seen what the injuries can do. Mackenzie Milton came in because Justin Holman was injured. Blake Bortles, I think it was his sophomore year, but still got a lot of playing time because Godfrey wasn't playing well early in the year. We saw what happened with Dylan Gabriel. So it's very possible if John Rice Plumlee cannot throw and Mikey Keene gets hurt, I think we're going to have to see some of Thomas Castellanos at some point.
Well, let's talk about that. John Rice Plumlee and the term not able to throw, right? Gus didn't bring him here from Ole Miss so that he could, moonlight over with baseball. Of course, his NCAA waiver denied, the appeal denied. So he's splitting time between both, but his focus will be on football. There are going to be creative ways Coach Malzahn uses Plumlee in the offense.
Yeah, I said on the show, too, it isn't like Gus Malzahn's system requires the quarterback to throw into really tight coverage windows, right? I mean, these are read option checks to a back 3 yards away from you. So you don't necessarily need to have some sort of Patrick Mahomes level laser accuracy. To Mike's point, you can't throw it at the guy's feet either, right? So I think that's the part you have to understand about Plumlee. While I recognize I don't think he's going to be the guy who's going to be threading the needle and throwing some dimes on the outside, with what Gus wants to do, I assume his arm is enough to be able to make the offense move. Would Mikey have a better arm? Would Castellanos have a better arm? Maybe. But I agree with you, Trace. I don't think Gus would bring him in if he didn't think he could execute those basics on the offense.
Plumlee's definitely going to play. He's going to get a lot of playing time. Even if he can't throw, Gus is going to force him in there like he did with Joey Gatewood last year. I see him as a better version of Gatewood. So he's going to get out there. But if he cannot throw accurately, I mean, we know he can throw. He played center field in baseball. He should have a decent arm, but can he throw accurately in football? I don't know. And if he can't, then it's going to make things a lot easier for the opposing defenses. And when he's in there, just like we knew this year when Gatewood came in, they're doing nothing but run.
We saw some pictures of quarterback Mikey Keene released by UCF Athletics this week. Looks like he's hit the weight room. For you guys, what do you want to see him progress in during spring camp? Again, everybody, we're not going to get any answers. You're going to hear Coach Malzahn, his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They're not going to tell you much of anything, and you're not going to get much pictures. So we're not going to know a whole lot, right? But what would you like to see Mikey work on and show progress to Coach Malzahn that this is his job?
It's going to be tough, I think, in spring practice, Trace. But I think for me, and we heard Nick Patty say this all season long with us on the show, it's, reading the defense and making the right decision in the right moment. It felt like when he got in there, Gus really slimmed the playbook down, almost cut the field in half and said, this is your read. If it's not there, throw it away, get out of bounds, do something. Can we then open that up a little bit? Is there opportunity for him to read the field more, go to that second, third read? Can we get a little bit more creative with some of those routes on the other end of the play? Hard to tell, I think, to know if he's done that during spring practice, but I think that's the next step for Mikey Keene is, can we open up the playbook? Can we open up the field a little bit and allow him to make plays all over the place?
All right, going through his progressions, finding the second, third receiver. We saw him do it a couple of times. That fourth down play against East Carolina is the one that stands out to me. That was about his third option on that play. But, yeah, he's going to need to do more of that and then tuck it and run a couple of times. We saw last year in the spring game that he could run, and then we didn't really see much of it during the season. Whether that was by design or not, I don't know. But he showed a little flash here and there. He's got athletic ability to maybe run. And we saw with Dylan Gabriel, he wasn't running much either the season before. So maybe that's just by design.
Who's going to catch these passes, right? We saw Ryan O'Keefe really emerge over the course of the season and a standout performance in the Gasparilla Bowl. Who fills the Brandon Johnson role now, though? That's a question going into this camp.
Yeah, I said on the show, I think for me, the X factor on the receiving side is Jalen Robinson, right? A guy who had a really good year in 2020, was a deep threat with Dylan Gabriel, was able to catch a ton of deep balls and really kind of take the top off the defense. We didn't see that a lot this year. He got injured. Ryan O'Keefe comes in and becomes an all-world playmaker. So where does Jay Flash fit in this kind of system now? I don't want to assume anything about his character. He was close with Dylan. Are there any feelings with that sort of the new emergence on the quarterback side? And then you bring in a guy like Kobe Hudson from Auburn, a good kid, a big kid who's got some potential. Where does Amari Johnson fit in this? You have Jordan Johnson, the Notre Dame transfer, Deontay Marks, the Florida transfer. There's some guys out there, and Quan Lee comes in. He's a speedster. So how this receiving core comes together will be interesting. I think Jalen Robinson has, for me, some of the biggest questions. And what Jay Flash will we get this season? And how does he integrate into the offense after really being out for most of the year as the sort of Mikey and Ryan O'Keefe kind of formed a partnership? Where does Jay Flash fit into all this?
Yeah, Flash and O'Keefe on the outside have the speed, but they're not the biggest guys. You're looking at guys like Kobe Hudson, the number one receiver at Auburn last year, coming over. And how about Keymore Gamble, the tight end from Florida, coming over? He was their best receiver too. We add those two guys to the mix, should give the quarterback, whoever it is, a little more security blanket on those third downs and plays over the middle.
Again, in the poll, about a third of respondents said they were more concerned about the defense. There are some holes to fill. What I like, though, is that we now have a year with T-Will, and we saw how that defense showed character and heart and just really progressed under T-Will over the course of the season.
Yeah, two things you got to like about the defense. One, different than the offense, continuity on the staff. No staff changes on the defensive side of the ball. That's got to be huge. And so you definitely would like that. You get a second year of coaching. I think linebacker was mentioned earlier by somebody. I think that to me was the other key position. Can JJB step in and be that lead linebacker? And ultimately, who's going to be the guy on defense? Big Cat, either by name or by stature, took that kind of mantle last year. I think Tatum Bethune maybe took that mantle just in terms of productivity. Who's that guy this year? Who's that one defensive stalwart that we know we can count on? It feels like every year we have that guy. If it's Shaquem, Richie Grant, Titus Davis, Tito Rodriguez back in the day, there's always one guy that we can say, hey, that's the leader of the defense. I don't know going in right now who that is. I'm not saying that we don't have it. Is it Devad Wilson? Is it JJB? Is it somebody on the line that's going to step in and be that guy? Is it Tremore Morris Brash? Who's that going to be? I think that's a huge question on defense. Where are we going to get our identity from?
The thing I loved about the defense last year is it got better as the season went on. Early on, and we had some breakdowns against Boise and Louisville. Even the Cincinnati game was ugly. After that SMU game, they really locked things down. The Tulane game, we won because of the defense. East Carolina, we won because of the defense. The Cal game, we won because of the defense. So, and then they played very well against the Gators. So that was the biggest takeaway I had from last year. Guys really settling into T-Will's system, and that should only get better this year.
For you, what is the biggest one-player loss that you see? For me, at Tatum Bethune, we were kind of counting on him to be back, and now we don't have him.
Yeah, I think Tatum Bethune or, I don't know that we count him as a loss because in theory he was going to go anyway, but I think Kalia Davis, right? Obviously, he could have come back for a year. I know, ultimately he probably wanted to leave to go to the NFL. I think Kalia Davis is another one of those guys that he would have been just a huge plug on that defensive line. So losing him and then losing Cam Good behind him, I think that also is a double whammy. So even though he was probably okay to go, I would say Kalia Davis.
Yeah, how about Big Cat? I know he wasn't going to come back this year anyway, but he was the true leader on the defense. And teams were game planning against Big Cat, and you saw it. Teams running onto the opposite side of him, and he really opened things up for the other guys. We're going to need somebody else to step up on that defensive line in his place.
Of course, it all gets going next week with the first practice of spring on Tuesday. We'll be talking about it not only on the podcast, but of course on the Sons of UCF Live when we're back on Thursday next week. But again, we're on Wednesday this week because men's basketball is going on Thursday. Let's welcome in BJ Taylor to talk to us a little bit about hoops. BJ, we missed you last week.
Yeah, no, I had a dental issue with my tooth. I had a root canal, so I'm back good now. Though I'm back. I couldn't talk well for like a day, so that was weird. But I'm good now.
All right, you sound good. Well, let's just ask you real quick about football. What's your biggest question going into spring camp?
Who replaces Dylan Gabriel now, right? I mean, that might be the obvious question, but for the past, I guess, 6 years now, we've had some pretty stellar quarterback play outside of, the end of last season. But I mean, with Mackenzie Milton going into Dylan Gabriel, I mean, you had some of the best in the country at that position, and I know there are options and certain guys that have transferred into the team now. But I mean, those guys set a really high bar, so it's not easy footsteps anybody following behind, Mackenzie and Dylan.
Well, let's talk a little men's basketball. They were projected to be fifth. They were looking at maybe that fifth spot and getting that first round bye. Of course, the stumble in Tulane and then the buzzer beater against Tulsa. First question for you. When you have something like that happen, the way that Tulsa game ended with a 3-point shot there at the buzzer, how do you recover from that, pick up the pieces, and move on in a conference tournament?
Yeah. Sorry, there was a delay. But for our guys, and obviously going into last week, 2 games to end the season on the road at Tulane and Tulsa, you want to win both going into conference tournament. You want to have that momentum, but losing to Tulane was a difficult one, and then losing to Tulsa, with having a 10-point lead there with under 4 minutes to go, obviously is challenging. But for guys, you just have to turn the page, right? You have to turn the page. You can't really focus on the past. Everybody and every coach around the country talks about there being 3 separate seasons. There's your preseason, which is non-conference. There's your conference season, and then there's your postseason, which is tournament play and NCAA tournament play or NIT tournament play. So these guys have moved into a new season, the latter part of their season, and they're just gonna have to come together and figure out a way to kind of forget about that loss and put together something, headed into Fort Worth.
All right, BJ, I'm trying to forget about that loss too, but I have 2 tactical questions for you. So, Mike, I'm going to take 2 in a row. Sorry. So, first one, what's your perspective on UCF is up 3 late and they foul? I know a lot of folks say that's the smart basketball play, foul up 3 late, make them go to the line and earn it. Obviously, unfortunately, in the second half, UCF not shooting free throws well. So, there were some struggles there. What's your perspective on fouling up late, fouling 3 late?
Yeah, that's the new trend that everybody does now. Everybody fouls if you're up 3 points late. I mean, I've watched numerous NBA teams this season. Teams are up 3 with 15 seconds to go. They foul, then they go down, they shoot free throws, they go back up 3, they foul again, go back up 3, foul again until there's like 2 seconds left in the game. So, I mean, I think it's something with the analytics and the numbers. Obviously, I'm not involved with that type of stuff with the analytics department. As a player, you always want to be in control of the scenario as much as you can. So you probably like to play, certain things out instead of fouling and sort of giving the other team free points. But I mean, that's just where we are with sports, as you know, Adam. I mean, that's just where we are. They do the same thing in football with the 2-point conversions now in the third quarter and different things. So if the analytics say it's a better option, then I guess, you can't argue with the numbers. But I'm going to tell you, as a player, you always want to, have the game, sort of be in your control as much as possible. So if that means we need to just defend and play it out, then, sometimes as a player, that's what you'd want to do. But whatever the coach decides, you sort of, just have to roll with it.
And then a little bit before that, on a defensive play, Horn from Tulsa absolutely clocked Mbake in the face, which nowadays is a reviewable play, right? Anything above the head and neck you can review. Darius Perry was absolutely adamant to the referees and to Coach Dawkins that need to be reviewed. Dawkins clearly turned to the bench and said, how many timeouts do I have? He was told he only had one, and he decided not to review the play. As a player and then as a coach, how do you handle that situation when a player is very adamant, hey, we've got to review this, coach? Because players always think they're right? But as a coach, you got to make the impartial decision. How do you think that should be handled when a player is that sure that something like that needs to be reviewed?
Yeah, so when it comes to the reviews, for the most part, it usually has to come from the head coach or his staff saying that he saw something or they saw something very specific to challenge, right? From a player's perspective, like you said, you often get caught up in the emotion and the passion of the game, and you always feel like something went your way or something didn't go your way, even if you know deep down, like maybe the ball went off my fingertips or maybe I know I actually fouled him, but you're so caught up in the emotions, you'll even go to your own coach and be like, hey, no, we need to review that. You know what I'm saying? You see guys start twirling their finger in the air all the time about stuff that was clearly not not going to go their way. So I think it has to come from the coaches and the assistant coaching staff. I think, now when I was there, if it was myself, maybe Coach Dawkins and myself, we have a relationship where it's like, hey, listen, that was this, but I want you to challenge it, right? But he knew that we kind of had that sort of relationship and that bond where he could trust me on it. And if it didn't go our way, he could hold me accountable for that sort of thing. Like the next day, like, BJ, listen, I'm not going to trust you on these calls anymore, So I think it's sort of it has to come from the coaching staff more so than the player, because players are so emotional and juiced up that they don't always, have the right perspective on calls like that.
You mentioned getting that root canal last week. Glad to see you're back, but that sounds like more fun than watching these last two games that I had. I'd rather have a root canal, I think. What do you think of this team? You think it's gotten better as the season gone along, or has it gotten worse? And why has it gotten worse? Because I think that's the clear answer.
The question.
Sorry, we had another delay. If I heard most of your question, though, you asked, do I think the team has gotten better or do I think the team has gotten worse? Correct, Mike? Is that your question?
Yep, yeah. That's it. Yes.
Okay. So if you're asking me, I think it all comes back to what were the expectations, right? So you three guys may have all had different expectations of what this season would be. You guys asked me the first time I came on, did I think that this team was a tournament team? And I told you that, well, again, it's not what they want to do or what I predict that they do. I think it's more so like what they actually come together and are able to do as a unit, right? I think one of the biggest things that has been sort of interesting to watch play out this season and has kind of baffled me just a little bit at times is the discussion over the talent that this UCF basketball team has. There's been a lot of, people will tag me in different things and see different things about this UCF team being the most talented team or different things like that. And me personally, I never had that perspective or that view of this team. I more so felt like this team had enough talent to do certain things and accomplish their goals, but I never was one to feel like this is just a team of incredible talent from top to bottom. They have this, they have that. We have good players that can do good things on this team for sure. You've got to love Darren Green's ability to shoot. And Mbake is my favorite player on the team because he's so consistent. CJ Walker hustles, plays hard, and we know what Darius Perry and Brandon Mahan were able to do in moments. Right. But I think it all comes back to a sort of expectation, right? This team was picked 5th in the preseason by the coaches, and, they were in 5th place until these last two stumbles on the road. So if you ask me my perspective on how this season has played out, I think it sort of has, gone in line with what the coaches predicted in the preseason, and now hopefully for these guys, they can make a tournament run here because their season isn't over. Their story isn't finished being written. But I think this is sort of, gone as the coaches, at least in the American Conference, predicted.
Yeah, but you don't think we played our better games early in the year? I mean, we won at Miami early. We blew out Michigan early. Even the games that we lost against Oklahoma and Auburn was the number 1 team for a long time. We were right in that game until the end. And those are all the first month of the season. The last 2 months of the season has gone straight down the toilet.
Well, 2 things. One, a loss is a loss. You lose to Auburn by 20 or you lose to Auburn by 4. While I played, it was always a loss, right? We didn't really take moral victories. My team, my year, we lost to Villanova, who was the #1 team in the country, by 5, and that didn't really do anything for our own resume. And then secondly, the Michigan game, this UCF basketball team was losing to Michigan until the second half came around. And then the second half came around and Darren Green and Brandon Mahan got hot, as I spoke of with those moments where we've seen them sort of explode. So when we're speaking on certain things, I think there's been a lot of moments where we've seen this team play, exceptional basketball, but it hasn't been consistent. Like, we have not seen top to bottom consistent performances to where it was like this was a 6-game stretch, right? You highlighted Miami, which was a 1 game. You highlighted Michigan, which was a 1 game. Auburn, which was a loss. So we haven't seen that consistent 4, 5, 6 games from this team throughout the season, which is what you see from the top teams in college basketball. That these teams win 5, 6, 7 games in a row.
Let's hear from Coach Dawkins on what he thinks it's going to take to win the game Thursday.
We have to defend and rebound. I think in the game that they won against us down there, they were tremendous on the boards. They were relentless. They played really hard, of course, like they always do. And we have to make sure we do a better job of keeping them off the boards, give them second and third shot opportunities, and then have good players to make sure we understand personnel well and guard guys accordingly.
Unlikely to have Brandon Mahan and not likely to have Isaiah Adams either. Coach was reluctant to say that we would see him Thursday. What's the impact on this team without those guys?
Yeah, well, without Brandon, definitely. We've seen, again, the spark he can be for this team when he gets it rolling, his ability to make, tough contested 3-point shots. You're going to lose about 11, 12 points a game there. So guys are going to have to pick up the slack in other ways, but they have more than enough for what they need to beat USF. USF hasn't been very good this season. I believe they're 8-22 as a record, only won maybe 2 or 3 conference games. So this team has enough to go ahead and do what they need to do against USF. And then from there, you're going to go on to, I believe it will be Memphis. And I was somebody on record when I was calling games, when I called the ECU game. I said that I felt more comfortable with UCF's basketball team having to play a first game instead of getting the bye, because that did put the team on the side of the bracket with Memphis and SMU as opposed to Houston, because I just don't feel like this UCF basketball team is a good matchup for Houston and their style of play. So I think there's an opportunity, and like you said, we'll see what happens.
All right, BJ, fill in the blank for me. If UCF is going to make a run in this tournament, blank has to play out of his mind.
Wow, you want one word? Blank.
Give me a player. Give me a skill. Give me something.
Yeah, so I would say it's going to take Darren for sure. There's no run that's being made without Darren Green's 3-point shooting. He can obviously go on a streak where he makes 4, 5, or 6 threes. Most of the games that were considered big wins this year, it's relative. It's pretty it coincides with Darren playing well. Memphis, Michigan, Houston at home, he started off hot. So majority of the games that the UCF team has been successful this year, Darren has played well. But that's a tough question. Adam, I rarely get stumped with questions, but for me to say one thing for this UCF team to make a conference tournament run, it would probably, it's going to take, definitely Darren, sort of, making his shots and making a run as a guard, because guards can, carry teams in March. So he's going to have to go on a huge streak. That would probably play a part in it.
The teams that you were on played very good defense. Well, is there something different about this team? Is it just that we don't have that taco in the middle, or is there something else strategically seen going on this year that is making the difference? Is it the heart? Is the hustle? What is it? We see what the women are doing. They're shutting people down to 20 points a game. What's going on with this team defensively this year?
Yeah, so to piggyback off your first point, Taco was obviously an exceptional player inside. I mean, I don't think I have to highlight what Taco's presence meant to the teams that we were on. Just not only his actual impact, but his ability to intimidate. But if you're looking at this current team, you're not only looking at the personnel, you're not only looking at the talent, but you're sort of looking at the makeup of guys and sort of internally what drives them. Right, our team was a gritty, tough, don't back down. Like how you see Memphis play now is similar to how we played. Like we wanted to be the bullies. Like we wanted to bully the bullies in the conference. Cincinnati was a tough team always, but now it was like UCF, we're going to be the tough team and we're going to bully Cincinnati and we're going to bully Houston. So, I mean, our hearts were in it to be that sort of team. We fully sort of bought into that. And this team's identity has just been different. The guys on this team, that's not their makeup, right? That's just not the way that they've been successful in their careers playing basketball. So that's why you see them then sort of lend itself to more three-point shooting, lends itself to more perimeter shooting, a free-flowing up and down game where we were more in the trenches, dog grind mentality. But it's definitely, I wouldn't say strategically, you kind of have to change your strategy, to mold it around the players, because I mean, the coaching that we have is the same coaching. I mean, the coaching that we had is the same coaching that they're getting, right? So I can assure you of that. It's just sort of how you receive it and how you're able to sort of implement what you're being told and your willingness to buy in.
Question asked of Darius Perry, what's it going to take to win Thursday? Let's hear from him.
Come out with energy and then lock in on defense. Honestly, I feel like we're one of the better defensive teams in the country. We just tend to not close those defensive possessions out. So if we can lock in and close those possessions out and beat the team I know we can be on defense, then I don't think we're going to have any problems.
Darius doesn't like Mike's insinuation that the defense isn't one of the best in the country. But he mentioned they're coming out with energy. That's something they've struggled, especially on the road.
Yeah, right. And for Darius, Perry, for both of the Darius Johnson and Darius Perry being point guards and being leaders, that's something on the court that you have a lot of impact over. You have a lot of control on how your team comes out and presents itself and plays from the opening tip, right? That was something that I always wanted to do as a point guard for our team while I played. Was it's not only your ability to play the game and make shots and do different things, but as a point guard and a lead guard, you have to be an orchestrator. You have to be someone who's able to see how the game is going, right? So if a team comes out on a 7-0 run, then Darius Johnson, Darius Perry need to be more assertive to start games so that leads don't get away, right? Or if you see that Darren Green comes out on fire, now we can sort of, lean more on him and we can do different things, and maybe you don't have to be so assertive. But those two, being lead guards, both the Dariuses, they have a huge impact on how the team's energy comes out to start games.
BJ, is there more juice in this game and that we're playing our rival? I mean, obviously we're always up for conference tournament play, right? But is there more juice, you think, for the guys playing against the Cows?
I mean, I would say that there should be, Adam. I'm always going to give you an honest answer. I say that there should be. I think because this is a neutral site game, and obviously, USF has been, not just, quite frankly, just haven't been very good this year. I mean, they're 8-22. Their record, hasn't, reflected much success this season. I think it can be sort of difficult to have as intense of a rivalry compared to when both teams are successful or even relatively successful, right? So, I mean, you got USF coming in as an 11. We're 6. So if the UCF basketball team comes out and performs how they should perform, should be able to take care of USF, or as you refer to them as the Cows, Adam. I'm never going to refer to them as the Cows. That's just, I'm not going to disrespect them like that, but I get it.
You're a classier guy than we are, yeah, for sure.
No, I get it, but I can't call them the Cows. I don't know what's our nickname. Like, what do they call us? Do you know?
The Nats.
The Nats, like
Nats, like like a Nat, yeah. I've seen
either that or they refer to us as C dot. So for the long time on the score bug for games, it was just C dot Florida. So they shortened it to C dot. So we're C dot in there. But I mean, there's like 5 or 6 fans anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I got you.
Well, you mentioned it being a neutral site game, and Adam just mentioned they only have 5 fans total. It's the game's in Texas. We're not going to have very many fans there either. How's that going to affect the atmosphere of this? Like, if we come out cold, there's no fans to get you back into this game. How big of that factor is that going to be?
Right. And Mike, I appreciate you realizing something like that. Like it's not going to be a packed house. So the energy has to sort of be created internally, right? That's why I said when Adam asked about it being a rivalry game and the extra motivation, when you're playing at UCF or you're playing on the road, you can have more of a rivalry, sort of game. But even if it's not a championship game, if it was UCF versus USF in the AAC championship, then I think we'd see a little more bitterness, a little bit more of a, like a passion to not only beat your rival but win a championship game. It's just a little different, when it's not a game of any meaning, right? I mean, I guess it's just not to say of any meaning, but for USF to be so just not that good this year, it's not gonna it's more of this team is in our way and we need to take care of them and we need to move on to other teams instead of it being sort of a bigger deal that you're playing USF.
BJ, earlier, the women's basketball, 25th ranked, beat SMU 61-28. They scored 24 points off 22 turnovers. They're 24-3. They've won 12 straight. Let's hear from Coach Abe on the consistency of her team's defense.
But every really good team in the country, doesn't matter who it is, men's and women's basketball defense is their staple. I mean, you have to play great defense to be a really good team. I mean, you can't just, let the other team score 100 points and you score 101. That's super dangerous, right? So, I mean, defensively, I think it just, we've kept it super consistent. A lot of teams play zone, a lot of teams play man, a lot of people do different things in their zones and mix it up. And I think why our defense is so good is that we've kept it really the same.
Really the same and really good. 3 of the 4 quarters, they held SMU to single digits. Hats off to Coach Abe. But getting back to this championship game is not the only goal here. They want to win.
No, for sure. I mean, if the women's team can go on to be the regular season champs and conference tournament champs, I mean, that would just be outstanding. And like I've said before, you got to give a ton of credit to their team. I mean, those women practice extremely hard. They come out every single day, and I mean, they just get after it in practice. And I always say that to say because if you watch the men's team practice, and this isn't just men's and women's at UCF, this is generally around the country, right? Men's teams tend to practice a little bit more cool. Like you come in, you practice, you talk, yeah, you communicate, but the team camaraderie isn't the same. If you watch any really good women's team around the country in women's college basketball practice, I mean, their energy, their effort, their passion, their love for the game is on 10 the entire practice. If it's a 3-hour practice, they are going. And that's what Coach Abe has done with her team. And I mean, she's spot on when she said the defense. I mean, her defense has been exceptional this entire season. She keeps it simple for her players so that they can play fast. They're not overthinking it. And as I always speak on, you've got to have someone on the floor who is fully bought in and relays that message to the team. And she has that in Diamond Battles. Diamond Battles was the defensive player of the year in the American Conference, player of the year in the conference, and a unanimous first team selection. She has set a tone for the rest of her team that this is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to go. And I mean, if for anybody who makes the comparisons of different UCF basketball players and wants to compare people to myself, I want to be compared to Diamond Battles. I'm just going to say that right now. We compare me to other men's players. Well, compare Diamond Battles to myself because that is a player that has been exceptional, and she deserves all the credit and support and accolades that she gets.
All right, BJ, I don't know if you know this about us here at the Sons of UCF. We are worldwide. I don't know if you know that. So worldwide, actually, that we tracked down one of your former teammates from all the way across the globe. We had a chance to chat with him, and we asked him a couple of fun questions about his teammates. And your name came up a few times. I want to play this clip. There's 2 of them back to back, and I want to play this clip for you and give you a chance to respond to the thoughts one of your teammates had about you. All right, which of your teammates is most likely to get a speeding ticket?
BJ Taylor or Matt Williams. That's a tough one. One of those 2.
BJ Taylor, he's got a lead foot.
He
gets out of that ticket in Orlando. He gets out of that ticket, right?
Probably.
He talks his way. He's the mayor of Orlando these days. He talks his way out of that ticket. There's no last one. Which one of your teammates most likely to become a coach?
Ooh. Ooh. Dang. I would go again, BJ Taylor or Nick Banyard, I'd say.
Well, I don't know if you're keeping up with BJ. He's a media star now. He's on ESPN broadcast. He comes on with us every week. He's on iHeartRadio. I mean, he won't even return my text messages anymore. He's so big time, Aubrey. I don't know what he do.
He doesn't text me back either. I don't
oh, okay. I don't feel so bad then. I don't know if you want to respond. There's two I mean, A, he's got you as somebody who is just tearing up the streets of Orlando. And then B, you don't return his text messages. You can respond any way you want, BJ.
Well, first off, let me address that I don't respond to text messages. I respond to everybody's text messages in a timely manner if it's appropriate. Let's be honest. That's number one. Number two, it took him a long time to say that he thought that I could coach. So I probably should text him now and be like, well, why was there so much hesitation in coming around to that answer? And number three, he brought up the driving. Listen, guys, my history speaks for itself. I only got one speeding ticket. Okay. So listen, is it speeding if you don't get caught? I don't I think it's trying to get somewhere in a timely manner. Okay. Every coach I ever had said I need to do things with a sense of urgency. And I drive with a sense of urgency. That's all I'm going to say. I drive with a sense of urgency. I don't mess around, okay? I don't mess around.
Do you want to respond and tell us anything about Aubrey here? I mean, you've got the floor if you want to share any his secrets.
Here's what I'm going to say. So Aubrey drives the Dodge Charger with big engine and all that stuff while we were in college. So, you know, he felt like he had the fast car. So one time I had a Nissan Altima at the time, and we did like a whole drag race down the 408 from downtown to UCF. It took us about 7 minutes flat, but I beat him. Right. And I didn't beat him because my car was faster, but it was because I was willing to go the extra mile to win. And that's really what's bothering him inside, guys. He's mad that he lost to my former Nissan Altima. I drive a Ford Mustang now, and we haven't raced those. But when we raced from downtown back to UCF, I beat him in the Altima, and I never let him live it down. So what you're seeing is the product of a man that's a little salty about a loss. Okay. But what he has to understand is he has to move on. It's no shame in losing to me in anything. It just happens.
I don't feel bad about not texting you anymore because I knew you weren't going to text me back anyway. So that's one thing. And the speeding thing, I mean, you better be careful admitting some of these things on the show here. We have some cops that might be listening.
That's a common misconception that's getting thrown around. I text back Trace. I text back Adam. Mike, you don't text me, so there's nothing to text back. Everybody gets a response. Okay? All right, listen. I'm not only a former basketball player, but they say some people like to say I have certain responsibilities as like unofficial mayor. So one of those things is I have to communicate with the people. I have to communicate with my people and stay in touch with the streets and what's going on. So I'm always going to respond to text. All right, I'm probably going to run for office here in a couple of years, so I need the people on my side.
Wow. Breaking news.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
We put that out on that if I run for mayor, like who might vote for me, just so I can get a feel for how it might go. You know,
Next week's big question, Trace.
Yeah. Next week's big question: would you vote for BJ for mayor? I like that. Hey, BJ, maybe you will join us next week to talk about the men's basketball team's 4-day run through the AAC tournament and their March Madness bid, or at least the women and where they end up in the NCAA tournament. So we thank you for joining us again this week. We're glad to have you back. By the way, Britt messaged earlier on the screen that she likes your teeth. So you get a thumbs up on teeth right there. See, BJ has pretty teeth.
Great. So, well, I'm going to tell you this: it wasn't cheap, my procedure. So I'm glad that they like that. They like my Mayor Taylor. See, there we go. This is the energy that we're looking for, guys. All right, this is the energy that we're looking for. Mayor Taylor. That is a slogan I can get behind.
All right, Mayor. We appreciate you stopping by the Sons of UCF Live this week.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Your Honor,
Mayor Taylor. I like that. All right, so the women will play the winner of Houston and the Cows that's going on as we go live now. So you could have a UCF and the Cows doubleheader, men at 7, and then possibly setting up the 1 versus 2 matchup with women playing very well. I don't even want to play the what if games that you guys did during your show this week on, what happens if the men lose a second game this season to the Cows, but win, and they've got Memphis on Friday, and I think we know that will be a definite challenge. Baseball's up 16-4 over Florida A&M going into the 7th. Baseball looking to move to 10-3. They've got North Florida home Friday, Saturday, odd scheduling. They go to North Florida on Sunday. Hopefully roll through these and set up Miami at home on Wednesday. Meantime, 24th ranked softball. They're out west. They beat Pacific to move to 16-7. They've got Fresno State. Pacific, by the way, is where head coach Cindy Ball Malone went to school, and she commented on what it was like coaching against her alma mater.
You know what? Earlier this morning, I was like, yeah, it's fine. We're here. It's like being back home. But when we were suited up and got on the bus to come here for the game, I got a little emotional, choked up, because, this place has been home, and it just helped me find my identity in the sport. It helped me find my love and passion for the sport. And it just spoke tonight, too, of the incredible people that are here that I met and helped me along the way.
Nice comments from Coach Ball Malone. They are in the Louisville Slugger Invitational after this game with Fresno State. Boston, Iowa State, Cal State Fullerton, Nebraska, Long Beach State back home against Ohio State, and they're going to need the big bat of Jada Cody, the AAC Player of the Week. Let's open up the mailbag, see how many of these questions we can get through here in the latter half of the show. Scott at S. Morrow, 2 bad losses in a row. While I know one was a buzzer beater, time to ask, has Coach Dawkins lost the team, or is this the team we were always going to have this year? I tend to favor the latter.
I'm going to go a little bit with neither, right? Because I don't think this is the team we envisioned being on the floor when the year started. Because we had Tony Johnson, he's not playing. We got Sean Mobley, he's not playing. Obviously, Brendan Mahan hasn't been in it for a while. So I'm going to go with neither. If I had to trend one way or the other, I would probably say this was just kind of the team we were always going to have. I think we've talked about how some of these parts we weren't sure if they'd fit together. So I'm going to go with neither.
Guys, I got to tell you, I'm having some technical difficulties. I hear everything you're saying, but everybody sounds like a chipmunk to me. I don't know how it's coming through on your end, but should I just jump off for a second and get back on? It sounds funny. I can understand what you're saying, but did he lose the team? I don't know. I think this team just sucks. How's that?
Okay.
I'd like to hear you say that sounding like a chipmunk. At Alex Bitter 11, how can men's basketball replicate what Coach Abe is doing with the women's basketball program? It seems the teams are currently trending in opposite directions. Defense, right? You heard Coach Abe there in the post-game reaction from the win over SB. They held them to 28 points. We have not seen consistency. You talk about it all year long with men. 9-9 overall in conference play, right? They split with Tulane. They split with Memphis. They split with the Cows. They split with Tulsa. Inconsistent. Which team shows up? If it's the team that plays well, they can make a good run in this tournament. If not, they could be out on Thursday.
It's hard to do the show when Mike's laughing at you as you talk because you sound like a chipmunk. But I will say that I think defense is one, commitment there. But two, I think potentially recruiting to the needs of the team. And if we need defensive stoppers, we need guys to play the middle, we need point guards, shooters, whatever. I think recruiting to the needs of what your team has would also be interesting. We've got a ton of guys who like to jack up threes. All those two guys together probably don't always match. So I'm going to say recruit to the needs of your team.
I think it's most likely we're going to see a combination of both the versions of this team. We'll probably have a game tomorrow night where we shoot the lights out against a bad Cows team. And then we'll come back the next day and get our doors blown off by Memphis. And we'll get a little bit of everything in 2 days.
In the platform we use to go live with these shows, we have an internal messaging system. And my favorite message so far since we've been doing this for a year is from Mike. Does everyone sound like a chipmunk? It's a question that he has asked of us. I love that. At JP Gilbert, always good with a question. If you're AD for a day, which current sport other than football are you investing the most resources in to become and remain a nationally prominent program? Women's basketball, softball, baseball, men's basketball. I tried to clarify, does it have to be one? He says it has to be one. I believe men's basketball has the biggest challenge ahead of it moving into the Big 12. We know the quality of Big 12 basketball. I would dump all those available resources into making men's basketball competitive in the future Big 12.
Yeah, I think men's basketball gives you the most eyeballs, has the biggest potential return on investment. But I'm gonna go with softball. Here's why. I'd like to just be the dominant program in one sport. just the hands down best ever. No one touches this program in any one sport. I'm going to go with ladies softball, and not that there's men's softball. I guess I'll go with softball because clearly I think they're a program on the rise. And imagine if we were the number one team year in and year out at softball, that'd be really cool. So I'll go softball just to go off the board. I don't know what chipmunk Mike's going to go with here.
The question doesn't say how much money we're putting towards one sport. So if it's only the money that we have, obviously all the money we have is not enough to make the basketball team that much better or as good as we need it to be. So if you put it all towards a sport like baseball or even softball, like Adam said, that may be enough to make that a powerhouse.
Elo will like that answer. Elo, if you're watching now, feel free to comment. Lauren, thanks for your comment. Mike, I don't know if you saw it. She'd like to hear the show the way you're hearing it through the chipmunk audio. UCF Go Cubs Go on Twitter. In the absence of a significant financial investment, what is a realistic ceiling for men's basketball as they prep for the Big 12? The Big 12 will put in, 7, 8 teams in March Madness? If UCF could get into one of those spots, it'd be a victory.
Yeah, I think bottom third is where I'd say. Here, just a quick little rundown on the Big 12. Baylor and Kansas, both top Big 12 conference play, 14-4. 6 teams alone are under 500, so you can tell there's a ton of competition. An Oklahoma Sooner team that came to Orlando and beat us in a pretty good game, they were only 7-11 in conference, and we obviously had our struggles with them. So I think you're looking at bottom third of the conference. Don't forget, we're also bringing Houston with us, who is pretty good. BYU is 22-10 this year. Cincinnati is probably not doing fantastic, but I think we're bottom third of the conference as it stands right now.
I would just say on that Oklahoma, that was right at the end. Wasn't that the game you were at?
Yeah.
That was like an 85-82 game. They played pretty well in that game, though.
Yep.
Lauren, I highly recommend if you have to, you put this on 2.0 speed, and you'll hear exactly what I'm experiencing right now. It's great. And then if you want a real kick, go back and listen to the old George O'Leary interview and slow it down to 0.5 speed. That's hilarious. But the ceiling for this basketball team in the Big 12, it's probably last place, especially when you look at if everybody's talking about how money is the factor. We're going to be so much further back in money between all these other Big 12 schools. It's not even going to be close.
At Patrick Nurse FTW, and I like that we got some new folks asking questions this week. Which women's sport could most use a financial / fan boost? I think that's women's basketball. You see the quality of play that they've had all during Coach Abe's run, but all the people that chirp on social media about how that program, that should be the model program at UCF, they don't necessarily show that in terms of support coming out to the arena. That's the program that could use the boost financially and from fan support.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer, right? Because obviously they're a program. They're about to be conference champions again after winning the regular season. They're going to go to the postseason. They're going to hopefully make some noise in the postseason as a top 3 or 4 seed in a bracket someplace. So that's probably the team. The other team, I guess I would say, just to go a little contrarian, I would also go with volleyball. I think that's a team that's been really consistent. I know I can hear PJ or JP Gilbert in my ear right now saying do it in the playoffs, but that's a team that's been consistent.
They did that in the playoffs. They had a run.
Didn't mean to offend anybody, but I think that's another team that I'd love to see us find a way to get behind a little bit more. I think volleyball can be a fun sport, and it's one of the early season things too, so it kind of holds you over as the year turns around.
That financial boost, we're going to need it for women's basketball if we're going to keep Coach Abe, because teams are going to be coming after her now, seeing the success she's had. So we're going to need to pay this woman, or else she's probably going to be gone in a year or two.
At the CMAS 14, how much do you think UCF, Houston, Cincinnati will collaborate together on an AAC exit plan, regardless of leaving in 23 or 24? I don't know that they do. I think they all say, Mike Oresco, you want how much money for us to get out early? No, we're not doing that. I mean, come on. Did you see these numbers floating? 35 million, 45 million. He's kidding himself.
Yeah, he should be wearing a ski mask and have a gun in his hand at this point, right? But I think I don't know how much collaboration would go into, because all the schools are in different situations in terms of how much money they maybe want to pay. Maybe UCF only wants to pay 15 to get out, but Houston, which has some deep pockets, is willing to pay 25. So I think it'd be hard to get everybody unified from that standpoint. I imagine they're all unified, to your point, Trace, of being like Mike Oresco needs to lay off some of the Prozac or something. But from this point, I don't think they're going to all band together, because I think they're all in unique situations, and it's going to be hard to find one common ground other than we need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, if you got somebody like Tillman Fertitta in Houston and he doesn't care about dropping $25 million, maybe if I'm him, I say, yeah, Houston, let's join the Big 12 today and I'll pay for it, and then we'll have a leg up on UCF and Cincinnati and BYU when they jump in.
You bring up an interesting point, Mike. I hadn't thought about. One could go or two could go, and the other could be left behind for another year because they don't want to pay that money. And you're right; it would be a Tillman Fertitta. That really is what UCF is lacking, is that kind of big dollar donor that would drop money like that. I think that's a good point. Brian W. Peterson, a regular on our question to Mailbag. By the way, he got chastised online a couple weeks ago for why does he ask so many questions, and then he took a week off. But I'm glad to have Brian back with the questions. He asks us to do what you do so well: recklessly speculate about what we might see in terms of new Nike UCF football uniforms. Will it be a steep departure from 2016 to 2021, or just a minor refresh? And then he advises me to cover my ears, maybe more Canaveral blue for the space game.
I'd go minor refresh. I think if you look at the different uniforms Nike's been doing lately, I don't think you're seeing anything outside of the realm of possibility. I think Oregon obviously is always an outlier, so I don't think you're going to see anything. Maybe a Canaveral blue sort of alternate color situation, a striping on a pant, or something from a shoe or something like that. But I said this on the show. I want to bring back the joust. So you can see this cup here, the old joust. Find a way to work the joust back into things. I think the joust was cool. Nice little cutout there. So I know we've got the Pegasus on the shoulder. We got the Nitro head. They got that little 4-point star thing they're doing nowadays. I'm not sure if that makes a comeback, but give me the joust in some form or fashion.
Yeah, how about for the space game, we got just straight up astronaut helmets, like a clear bubble, and we see everybody's head through the thing. How's that? Is that reckless enough for you guys?
Are astronaut helmets clear? I don't think they're clear, are they?
I don't understand what the chipmunk just said.
We will wrap up with the Night Alorian asking what has been my favorite place to trespass. I don't know that I look at any of this as trespassing. I got to be honest with you. If you can just walk into these venues, is it trespassing? So I don't. But Mike, You're trying to tout some sort of. By the way, on the show you were mentioning walk and talks. Your favorite walk and talks. I'd say walking with Sammy was probably my favorite cameo.
Yeah, you need to give me the top 4 number 1 seeds of your walk and talks, and we're going to figure out this whole bracket, and people can vote on it as the March Madness tournament goes on.
I don't even know that I have that video. Wouldn't you need to show video for people to be able to remember what they were?
Exactly. Yeah, they're all on your Twitter page. Exactly. I'm sure we can go back and gather them all up.
By the way, I like the new open on the podcast. And Mike, you're talking about doubling things from 30 to 50. I liked it. I like what you did there.
Conveniently cut off the clip right before I said 60. I was estimating 50, 60.
Adam, I guess. You had the prop up earlier. Remind folks, we got some traction there for a couple of days, folks subscribing to the YouTube channel, but we got a long way to go.
Yeah, we're trying to get, don't go anywhere. We're trying to get to 450 on our YouTube channel. I'm going to redo the set here, and we'll give out a mug here, a Yeti, either the big or the smaller size, to one of our followers, subscribers on YouTube. So once we get to 450, we're going to randomize that thing, and one of you lucky people out there is going to get one of these beautiful things. They are fantastic. And Elo is in the comments right now, by the way. Elo, I think he's quite mad at you, Trace. But anyway, get to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and you will potentially win one of these mugs. Elo wants top 4.
The prizes keep getting better and better. I mean, we went from the hats, and now we got these nice what do you call them?
Tumblers,
mugs,
sure.
Whatever they are. And who knows what the prize will be by the time we get to 1,000 subscribers. We may have some very good prizes. And by the way, don't we owe Missy McAwesome an appearance on the show? Didn't she win a prize?
We do.
Did she not want to come on?
We do owe her
an appearance.
Maybe when you're on vacation. Maybe when you're on vacation, we'll invite her on.
There you go.
I don't blame her.
All right,
BJ Taylor looks like he wants to host.
Final predictions, guys. Men basketball versus the Cows Thursday. Winner?
I want to say yes. I feel like we can beat the Cows. We're better than they are. We should be able to pull this off. But if you asked me to bet any amount of money that was significant to me, I would not want to do it. But I on paper, my head says we are a better team than the Cows. So put me down for a check mark, but put it in pencil.
Yeah, I said it on the podcast. If this game gets down to the last 5 minutes and it's close, I am not feeling good about it at all. So we'll see. These guys beat us up pretty good one time. We beat them up pretty good one time. It's the rubber match. Anything goes. But unless about 4 or 5 other teams don't make it to Texas because of gas prices, I don't think we have any chance getting past Friday night. So.
I agree with you, Mike. No lead is safe. We saw them up big against Tulsa and let that dwindle down until they found a way to lose it. So I agree with you. No lead is safe. And if they're in a dogfight there in the last couple of minutes, my confidence will not be high. Women, though, I feel good about no matter who they play, the Cows or Houston, that they're going to win and get a pretty good seeding in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, nice back-to-back Thursday. Right? A 7 o'clock tip for the men and a 9 o'clock tip for the ladies team. So nice back-to-back Thursday. It'd be great if it's a doubleheader against the Cows and we sweep that. Those count for WAR and I-4 points, yes?
I don't know. CostSeg Advisor, if you're watching, let us know, or let us know online on social media. Does this count towards the WAR on I-4? I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Either way, but nice clean sweep against our little brother to the west there. So we'll take that. Any day of the week. So a nice, fun Thursday night. Nothing else going on Thursday, right? Just might as well watch some hoops games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beat up on the Cows 2 times. That'd be nice. I hope the women's Cows get there so we can beat them too.
We hope to be back with you next Thursday talking about the first week of spring camp. I'm Trey Strelko for Adam and Mike, Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. Go Knights.